Hello there, Ramblers, and welcome back to Reese Rambles, my weekly podcast all about the latest comings and goings, movings and shakings, and indeed all the rest of it in the worlds of vintage and retro computing, gaming, and technology. Hope you're all doing well out there. And again, it's another gloriously hot, sunny weekend here in the UK. In fact, it's officially a heatwave, and I'm also going to another gig this weekend. I know you enjoy my gig news. I'm going to see ELO at Hyde Park at an event called British Summertime, which takes place every year in Hyde Park. My wife and I usually make the excursion down there, and we've seen some rather cool, rather legendary acts over the years. So we saw Tom Petty. That was actually shortly before he died. So. And he had Stevie Nicks on as a guest, which was really, really cool. We saw Billy Joel down there. We've seen quite a few legends over the years. So looking forward to seeing Jeff Lynne and the rest of the crew. I have heard that he has just cancelled a gig today, though, because apparently he's been playing with a broken hand. Hopefully he is saving himself for Hyde Park and he's not going to cancel that. You'd think he'd be cutting it a bit fine if he does. But anyway, that's enough personal news, because first up, I have a bone to pick with Atari, of all people, this week, and I want to start with this straight off the bat, okay? Because this literally came through as I was setting up for this ramble, as I was plugging in all of my various cables and things as I do to record stuff. I had an email from Atari. Essentially, the headline was, Last Chance Collector's Edition Atari VCS. Add to your VCS collection. Only 100 available. Now, if you click through to the website, this is $199, and this has the walnut finish on the front. It's got the modern controller and the new joystick controller that they made. It has the built-in spinner and stuff, and looks like quite a nice bundle for $199. It's a limited edition of 100. No, the bone that I have to pick is when you go through to the description. The Ultimate Collector's VCS. In June 2018, the Atari VCS was launched as part of a crowdfunding campaign with our incredible fanbase. These collector's edition units were only made available to original backers of the project on Indiegogo. They have never before been available outside of the backer campaign, but now we have found some units held in reserve in our warehouse, so we are making them available to fans and collectors. Now, that's a lie. That is not true, because they have pulled this stunt before a couple of years ago. So Atari, I'm calling you out as a bunch of massive liars. When they found a pallet of these unsold backers edition Atari VCSs back in, I think it was like 2022, 2023, something like that. And the reason that I know that is because I bought one, and I got exactly the same pack that they are selling here, with the walnut front, with the two controllers. The pack was I don't think I have the packaging immediately to hand, but the pack was the original backer campaign. And the reason, the way that I can prove that to you, I just pop this down for a second, and I have taken a photo of this. I can't really show this to you on camera very easily, so I'm going to show you a photo. But mine has this hologrammatic sticker on the back, which they have a photo of here, Atari VCS Collector's Edition. And this is the photo that I took literally about, what's the timer say on the camera? Yeah, 3 minutes 40. So literally less than 5 minutes ago, I took this very photo. Atari VCS Collector's Edition, number 103 of 6,000. And they are saying that, the 6,000 were the original Indiegogo backing campaign. They've got a picture of the exact same sticker on the website here. This is the very first time that these consoles have been made available. Oh, we found them in the back of the warehouse. It's not true. I bought one a couple of years ago. This very one. You liars. So I'm calling you out. Anyway, hopefully that sets the tone for the rest of this week's ramble. And just before we dive fully into this week's ramble, I would like to say a very, very quick thank you to our sponsor, PCBWay.com. Now, they are currently celebrating their 11th anniversary serving this community, and that means they've set up a page full of wonderful promotions. And of course, that will be linked in the description down below. So if we click to enter this, I can show you what I mean. Now, they are offering these exclusive coupons for money off their various services, stuff like PCB fabrication, CNC machining, injection molding, 3D printing, and all sorts of other things as well. So please do go and check this out. It isn't just for new or existing customers. This is available to everyone. So some really good discounts here. And a big thank you to PCBWay, as always, for supporting Reese Rambles, and indeed my main channel, Control.Reese, as well. Lovely people. When I was a young boy, probably around 15 years of age, or actually probably a bit younger than that, I think, when I first started, I used to go to work with my dad during the summer holidays. I promise this story is relevant to my next news story. And Yeah, he had like a small engineering business that he owned, and they had an office. I think they had around sort of 7 or 8 people based in this office. And as you might expect, in the kind of mid-90s, they had kind of a rapidly growing and evolving IT setup. So they had like this data general parts catalogue system running on an old mainframe thing when I was very, very young. And I do very vaguely remember that being in the office. And then, of course, they started to move to PCs. They had the Internet PC in the corner, a 486 which had AOL and a modem. And then, of course, as kind of the years went by, they built up into a proper network with an ISDN line and everything else. And one of my very first experiences working with PCs was actually setting all of that up for them over the course of the various summer holidays at that very, very young age. And it was a really great experience. Now, I actually have a photo of this as well. This was taken with a film camera. I'm not quite sure what year this was. It seems like maybe it was a little bit earlier than that. And this was Tony, the accountant's PC. I think I'm installing Windows 95 here. One of my tasks was to go around and upgrade all of the Office PCs from Windows 3.1 to Windows 9. You can actually see one of those, now I mention it, you can actually see one of those data general screens in the background behind me as well. We've got a couple of fax machines. A real mix of kind of, late 80s, early 90s technology, as things were at the time. Now, the reason I mention this is because, obviously, there wasn't a huge amount of IT to do at the time, and the people working there were engineers, and they were quite capable of looking after their own computers and stuff. So I used to have quite a lot of free time to just play games and things. And, of course, they had some quite decent PCs there. And one of the things that I do remember is playing Quake World on their ISDN line. This would have been, obviously Quake was released in, 1996, so this would have been 96, 97-ish, I guess, maybe 98-ish, something like that. And so it amused me when I saw this pop up on my phone earlier this week. This is a story on PCGamer.com about a Quake news site called Blues News, which I very, very vividly remember visiting pretty much every day back in the day. I had no idea this was still around, but apparently it still is. And apparently it's been running for 30 years now, so I had to acknowledge this. The headline here is Out of the Blue, How a Quake blog turned PC gaming news site has stayed a haven from internet inshittification for nearly 30 years. Apologies for language, I try to avoid swearing on this podcast, but this is highly, highly relevant here because I'm going to have a bit of a rant again. I'm going to call someone out. I'm going to call someone out again because if you are watching this on YouTube, you're going to enjoy this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disable my ad blocker. I'm going to reload this page. And I'm using Firefox, so I'm also going to turn off their tracking protection thing. And I'm going to let it refresh again. And I'm going to resize this down to mobile size. And I'm going to refresh the page. Now let's take a look at what we have here. A haven from internet inshittification. Look at this, PC Gamer. We have a big banner at the top. We've got a big banner overlaid at the bottom. We start scrolling down. We've got an advert, a couple of paragraphs, and then a full auto-playing video advert. Oh, look, we've just got a video that's popped up over the top of the actual content. We've got a huge advert here that's basically the size of the entire screen for Donkey Kong. This is why we need havens from inshittification, isn't it? PCGamer.com. Just bear with me a second while I look at the size of this video. See, this is why I use an ad blocker, not because I want to deprive creators such as myself of their source of income. The internet's just unusable without it. Anyway, that's my rant about inshittification and perhaps why Blues News has been so popular over the years. And, the irony, the Alanis Morissette levels of irony of them calling out inshittification. Anyway, I'm going to stop saying that word now. This was written by Justin Wagner, or Wagner? Justin Wagner. Classy name. You've been feeling it too, haven't you? You try to scroll up on a gaming news article and the ads crowd out the text so thoroughly you have to reload. That's right, PC Gamer, that is very much the case. You want to find a short guide for collectibles in a new RPG, but beneath Google's flat-out wrong AI summary, there's only a parade of videos well over the 10-minute mark. Pressures to survive in the attention economy have turned countless websites into labyrinths of engagement and monetization tactics. This spectre of quality decay, this inshittification, sorry, I did say I wouldn't say that word again. As it was dubbed by journalist Cory Doctorow, goes beyond news outlets, social media sites and blogs, extending to streaming TV, digital storefronts and just about any service that exists in proximity to capital. Perhaps that's why Stephen Blue Heaslip's site Blues News is such a stable time capsule of the quaint, uncynical frontier the early internet is remembered as. Created to platform Heaslip's hobby writing in the 90s, the site was never about money. It was about something timeless, human, and more primordial. Quake hype. And there's a really good interview with him here. Now, of course, I started this off as a bit of a rant about PC Gamer, and, you know, they're rather ironic and complete lacking in self-awareness of this article, but it is a great interview, I will say. You know, it's all about this kind of iconic old website. I do have I have very fond memories looking at some of the old screenshots and stuff that they've got here from 2005. I remember this very, very vividly. I used to love this website. Used to go there for all of my Quake news and stuff. And I must admit that after that kind of period, I had no idea that it had continued as a more kind of general PC gaming news site. So yeah, but I thought this interview was really good. You know, quite insightful. Is, you know, obviously very passionate about Doom and about Quake and about id Software and stuff, and that's kind of what led to the creation of this site. And his very strong personal beliefs in you know, fighting the downfall of the internet and all of the ads and stuff like that. So, yeah, rant aside, if you can stomach this website, like I say, you know, pie holes up, you know, uBlocks enabled, go over there and have a look at it, because it is a good article, it is a good interview, and yeah, 30 years of blues news. I'm going to have to go and check out this site again and see what the current state of it is, but yeah, good on you. You know, there's not much that survives from that era of the internet. And there's certainly not much that survived completely, pretty much unscathed in its original form. And I think as a retro gamer and a retro computing enthusiast, that is very much something to be celebrated. So, from one story about one of the last bastions of old, obsolete technology still desperately clinging on in 2025 to another story which is oddly appropriate to that theme. I guess that's what we do here, isn't it? And this was actually submitted by Bitter Blitter on my Discord server last week, and he literally missed my recording by a matter of minutes. So, yeah, I'm going to cover it this week, and it's actually a bit more timely this week, I will say, because this does actually start on Sunday, July the 13th, which is in a couple of days' time, as at the time of recording. So this is the Old Computer Challenge. It's in its 5th year, and they have had some really cool themes in their past 5 years, I will say. You can actually go through the archives and see how people have celebrated this particular challenge over the past 5 years, which is quite a nice thing to explore. You know, it's the website itself is also very in this kind of vein of retro computing, retro style websites as well, which is always cool to see. But yeah, this is a challenge that runs for a week. The clue is in the name, and to be fair, I think they explain it pretty well, so let's read what it says here on the website. So the Old Computer Challenge was conceived by Selene Rapen in 2021. What a name. Inviting people from all walks of life to experience a single week in July with an old machine. The aim of that challenge was to both highlight and downplay the importance of modern hardware and the recent world of popular technology. Several mutations of the original idea expanded the challenge the following years, aiming to set specific goals for the participants to complete or fail to do so. Eventually, it became clear that different participants had varying ideas as to what an old machine represents. This led to OCC's current DIY format. The Old Computer Challenge, while retaining its name for history's sake, is a community of enthusiasts, machinists and friends who were brought together over the years to inspire each other to experience new and old things, challenge their beliefs and perhaps even shed their dependency on things that they consider vital. To some, this could mean using an alien operating system, limiting their hardware resources, adopting new protocols, using an old machine or using no machine at all, limiting online habits, using no GUI, etc. The rules of the game are up to the participant. While active throughout the year, traditionally the community gets together in a week in summer to share their journey and knowledge. In 2025, this week starts on Sunday, July the 13th, and ends on Saturday, July the 19th. This is when the IRC channel and forum are most active. We invite you to yet again get together and realise there is no challenge, it is but a learning experience. And then there's a link to previous entries over the years. So the idea, this started off 5 years ago as a challenge to basically ditch all of your modern day technology, and just embrace old technology for a week. See if you can use an old, obsolete computer or operating system for a week. And over the years, it's kind of evolved and adapted. And now the point is just basically making people a bit more mindful of their kind of usage of modern technology and stuff like that. And of course, if you want to challenge yourself to, ditch your phone for a week, or I don't know, to try to use a Pentium 4 running Windows 98 for the week or whatever, then of course you're more than welcome to do that. And a big part of this community is actually documenting that. So people are creating websites and stuff, even videos, that kind of thing. And they're all kind of discussing their experiences and stuff in their own IRC channel and stuff as well, which is called libera.chat, apparently. So, I am very much on board with this. I think this is really, really cool. And to be honest, I would have jumped on this and actually used this as an opportunity to maybe make a video, perhaps, of, my trials and tribulations. As you're probably aware, I do use a lot of old, obsolete technology. But as it happens, I'm actually on holiday next week. I'm actually away for the week. So I'll be barely using technology anyway, to be honest. When I'm away, when I'm on holiday, I'm not glued to my email and glued to my phone and stuff like that. I like to get out and about and kind of switch that kind of stuff off for a week. So perhaps I could document that. I don't know. It does seem like a coming together of like an alignment of planets or something, doesn't it? Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. Who knows? Anyway, as usual, I haven't planned that far ahead, but this is, like I say, I love what they're going for here. I think this is great. And thank you to BitterBlitter for bringing it to my attention. I would love to know if anyone out there is participating in this, any of my viewers or any of my listeners. So please do let me know. It'd be very interesting. That's all I've got to say, really. Go check out the website. It's very interesting, and it has links to all of the previous year's old computer challenges and people's documentation thereof. I'd like to take a moment, if I will, to talk about a British legend, a British icon, an eccentric inventor, all-round genius, and quite the character by all accounts. Someone who is sadly no longer with us, unfortunately, as of 2021, but he certainly made his mark on the world. I'm, of course, talking about Sir Clive Sinclair, who brought us the ZX Spectrum. Of course, he had previously done the ZX80 and the ZX81, and various calculators, consumer electronics type stuff. The C5, that little bike thingy. And speaking of bikes, most recently he did like a folding bike thing, didn't he? Just a couple of years before he sadly passed away. So, he is very much an icon, I think, in this country. And that was marked quite a few years ago, I will just say, just a brief diversion for you, by a dramatised kind of comedy documentary type thing. I don't know. It's a peculiarly British thing called Micromen. Now, someone has actually uploaded the entirety of this to YouTube somehow, and it has actually stayed online for about the past 11 years. It's not been taken down by the BBC's copyright bots, which is weird because it doesn't seem to have been broadcast since, and it's not available on any of the streaming services or anything like that. So I would expect that would mean that there would be some kind of copyright issues or something around it. But there you go. If you're not familiar with the story of Sinclair and Acorn and all of that kind of 80s British computer industry stuff, this is well worth a watch. It has Martin Freeman in it, and it has Alexander Armstrong as Sir Clive Sinclair, who you might know from like game shows like Pointless and stuff like that. But obviously he's done a hell of a lot more than that over the years. But of course, this story isn't about Micromen. I just wanted to make you aware of the fact that it is available on YouTube and that you should watch it because it is amazing. And of course, I will link to that. No, this is about the Sinclair family and the latest iteration, his nephew, Grant Sinclair, who is apparently also very much of that kind of technology inclination, because he has just released his own gaming handheld, his own retro gaming handheld device, which is based on the Raspberry Pi Zero 2W. And it's a credit card size console, which looks really cool. I really like this. So this story is on theverge.com. This was shared by Gravitone on my Discord server, by the way. And the story here by Andrew Lizewski. Let's go with that. The ZX Spectrum inventor's nephew created a new ultra-thin handheld emulator. Grant Sinclair, the nephew of Sir Clive Sinclair, who invented the iconic ZX Spectrum 8-bit home computer, has created a new handheld emulator called the Gamer Card. that's just 6.5mm thick, thanks to its unique silicon-covered micro button controls. It's powered by a Raspberry Pi 02W with a quad-core processor and features a 4-inch high-res 60fps square screen. But its £125 price tag, which it says here is around $170, puts it in competition with more capable and familiar-looking handhelds from Anbernic and Retroid. So we've got a bit of an animated GIF of this thing in action here, and if we click through, we can see a couple of photos of the device as well. Now, there is a link to a YouTube video just kind of demoing this, so I will click through to this. It's only 51 seconds long, so we'll hit play on that. And what I like here is, of course, you go into a shop and you have these, these pegs that have these Xbox Live and PlayStation and Roblox kind of gift cards hanging from them, and it's very much designed to be on those hooks with those. Those points cards and things in those kind of gaming shops. So that's the target market. You know, you see it, you're queuing up at the checkout to pay for your purchases or whatever. You see it there on the shelf and you think, oh, yeah, I'll grab one of those. Perhaps a little bit pricey for an impulse purchase, but it's a cool concept. It's a really cool concept. And looking at the video of this and seeing this in action, of course, it's Raspberry Pi powered, so it runs, RetroArch and all your other kind of retro emulators and stuff. I think this is really innovative. You know, it's got these silicon buttons and stuff. Of course, I haven't tried it, so I'm not quite sure what the tactile feedback is like on it, what it's actually like to play on. It looks like it has two kind of tiny little built-in speakers, but I really love this. I think this is a fantastic concept. Of course, it's good to see the Sinclair name on something and kind of innovating in that gaming space as well, that kind of retro gaming space. So, gamer card, pocket-sized handheld shaped like a retail gift card and made entirely of stacked PCBs. No case, no clutter, just pure, ready-to-play fun. Powered by a Raspberry Pi and featuring a stunning 4-inch, high-resolution 254 ppi square display. Sleek, minimalist design packs high-performance arcade action right in the palm of your hand. No setup, no cables, no packaging waste. Just grab it off the peg and start playing. Available now from grantsinclair.com. And it is preloaded with 2 games. Instant retro gaming wherever you go. What are the 2 games? Look at this. What has Grant Sinclair been up to? This is literally the first time I've looked at his website. This is like the next generation Sinclair C5 he's got here. This is like a trike, electric trike thing. This looks really cool. The world's fastest street-legal electric pedal assist bike. I'm going to have to spend some more time checking out this website. But you can buy it right now directly from grantsinclair.com for £125. And hopefully it will also be available on a peg near you, your local retro gaming outlet. I love it. I think it's great. So, if you cast your mind back to last week, you will no doubt remember a story submitted by my very good friend Naoki. And he basically sent me a link to a short, and I refused to feature his short, and I actually Googled the story and clicked through to the actual story on a news website instead. So, in his continuing reign of terror against Reese Rambles, this week he sent me something that I need to actually pay to read. So thank you for this, Naoki. Of course, I'm joking. Please don't take it personally. No, but this was quite an interesting story over on The Verge, or at least it looks like quite an interesting story. It probably would be if I could read it. And it's about the Switch 2 and basically how they have they've added encryption to the Switch 2's USB-C port, which explains the lack of third-party docks for that particular console. So the headline here is how Nintendo locked down the Switch 2's USB-C port and broke third-party docking. We whipped out a USB-C PD analyzer to test how Nintendo walled its garden this time around. And this is a story by Sean Hollister. And I'm very gingerly, very carefully scrolling down here. So there's always a reason why universal USB-C ports don't just work like you'd expect. In the early days, it was incompetence or naivety. Later, manufacturers often cheaped out. But in the case of Nintendo Switch 2, it appears to be intentional. With the Nintendo Switch 2, it should be easy to plug your new, more expensive console into video glasses or TVs when you're travelling away from home. USB-C makes it so, but Nintendo has intentionally broken the Switch 2's compatibility with those devices, using a new encryption scheme and some form of dedicated encryption chip. 2 accessory manufacturers tell The Verge. I haven't yet found... Oh, there it is. Anyway, so apparently Sean Hollister plugged some kind of USB-C traffic analyzer thing into the port, and the switch 2 wasn't speaking standard USB-C, and that kind of implies the existence of some kind of encryption, which apparently has also been confirmed by some third-party Nintendo accessory manufacturers. I wouldn't expect any less from Nintendo, I must say, but yeah, quite disappointing news. And if I click on this, I can pay $7 to read this article, or we can leave it at that. Now, Naoki did also post another story, which I thought was really interesting, and this is something that I have a lot of nostalgic love for, so I'm going to move straight on to this. This is the Animaniacs, if you remember this cartoon, this Warner Brothers cartoon from the 90s. We were, I think we were quite lucky growing up in that we had satellite TV, which was quite rare, I think, in the UK at the time. So we had, a lot of stuff like Nickelodeon and stuff like that played kind of US cartoons and stuff like that, which was really cool. And this is a story over on PCGamer.com, and the headline here is Preservationists discover a nearly complete build of a lost Animaniacs game 22 years after it was cancelled, and you can play it right now. I love this kind of stuff. I love cancelled games, game preservation, all that kind of thing, and I was a huge fan of the Animaniacs. Of course, Pinky and the Brain perhaps being the most famous characters here, and indeed, there is a picture of the Brain on this story. So, gaming preservation group Hidden Palace has discovered a nearly complete prototype of a cancelled game based on Animaniacs, the beloved 90s animated show created by Tom Ruegger and produced by Steven Spielberg. I think I'm on a speedrun here to see how many names I can mispronounce in this episode. Animaniacs Hollywood Hypnotics was being developed by UK studio Full Fat Productions, which was also a frequent collaborator with Maxis on series like The Sims and Spore, and now mainly develops mobile games. Intended for the Game Boy Advance, Hollywood Hypnotics was in development between 2000 and 2003. Hidden Palace revealed the prototype's release on X via Kotaku. My goodness. The build was acquired by frequent Hidden Palace collaborator Mr. Pinball64, who has supplied the group with more than 100 game prototypes in the last few years. The group provided further details about the game and its development on the website. Despite being unfinished, the game is playable end-to-end. Structurally, Hidden Path describes it as similar to the Dizzy series of adventure games, with players solving puzzles and interacting with NPCs across 6 studio lots, culminating in a showdown with Pinky and the Brain. While apparently feature complete, Hollywood Hypnotics does lack polish with unrefined puzzle design and hazy signposting. Moreover, the player character graphics are directly based off another Animaniacs game designed for the Sega Genesis in 1994. Though whether these are placeholder sprites or a way to cut costs on the part of Full Fat is unclear. And there is a video here showing the actual gameplay of this game. This looks so cool. So it's a complete game that you can play all the way through from beginning to end on your Game Boy Advance if you have a flash cart for that, or indeed you can play it under Mister or an emulator, I guess, if you prefer. And yeah, it's kind of like adventure puzzle, like it says here, similar kind of concept to the Dizzy games. So this is really, really cool. And yeah, I love the Game Boy Advance. I love the Animaniacs as a series, and this looks quite comprehensive. I can't believe that they got to this point and then cancelled it. I mean, was this some kind of copyright issue, or... Oh, the story doesn't actually go on to explain. I suppose I should read this. Hollywood Hypnotics was ultimately cancelled after a rough development that involved several iterations. It was originally handed to Full Fat by publisher Conspiracy Entertainment, but Full Fat seemingly abandoned the project in favour of gigs with other publishers. The spin-off was then revived by German publisher Swing Entertainment, with Full Fat starting the game over. But Swing closed its doors in 2003, with Hollywood Hypnotics being canned as a consequence. You can download the Hollywood Hypnotics prototype via Hidden Palace's website. The build is playable with any GBA emulator. So, yeah, a bit of a bizarre story, that. I'm sure there's more to it than that. There must be. Anyway, looks like a pretty cool game. I'm going to have to find some time to check this out. I always say this every week, don't I? I'll definitely check this out at some point. I never have time to check these things out. But if you do, let me know, because I would love to know about your experiences with Animaniacs. Hollywood Hypnotics, cancelled Game Boy Advance game from 2003-ish. And that, my dear Ramblers, brings us around quite neatly to my regular Video of the Week feature, wherein I talk about a video that I have seen here on the YouTubes in the past week that has entertained or enlightened or educated or otherwise improved my life in some small way. Sometimes they are retro gaming and tech related, sometimes they aren't, sometimes there's one video, sometimes there's more than one video. So let's dive straight into this. Now, I just want to remind you again about Micromen. I know I mentioned it as part of a previous story. It did get a brief mention, but I am going to make this one of my videos of the week. This is an hour and 24 minutes long, so watch it on your TV or whatever. Get your snacks in and stuff like that. Make it part of your movie night for this week, because this is genuinely brilliant, and it's been quite a long time since I've actually sat down and watched this properly. So it was nice to be reminded of its existence just by that story about, obviously, Clive Sinclair's nephew. It's not an entirely serious documentary. There's some British humour and stuff in it, but it is largely historically accurate. So I really love this kind of stuff, and a great production by the BBC. Like I say, I think it was BBC4 that produced this at the time. So that is that. But I also want to draw your attention to another video that I watched just the other night, and this is kind of in a similar vein to the stuff that I've been doing on my main channel recently. I know I keep banging on about this. And also a similar vein to last week's video of the week about SteamOS and gaming on Linux and stuff. So another video that I should draw to your attention if you are interested in all of that kind of stuff. And it is this. It's a fantastic DIY 3D printing project by a channel called Tech by Matt. And I'm not sure I'd come across this channel previously, but it's quite big. It's got 261,000 subscribers, and this video has had 129,000 views. So, quite a big video. May have even come up in your recommendations. And if you remember, a few years back, Valve tried to start this Steam machine kind of movement where basically, it was a set of kind of system specs that they published, and they were going to release SteamOS, and they were going to let third-party manufacturers actually manufacture these Steam machines, which would be built to a particular spec. So obviously, end users would, it would manage their expectations. That's what I'm looking for. And of course, they would know that the hardware would be compatible with SteamOS, and they would get a very nice, polished experience. Now, of course, this didn't really take off, and Valve decided to go down the route of obviously making the Steam Deck in the end. And of course, there are now a couple of kind of third-party Steam Decks on the market. There's the Lenovo one. I think there's another one, the Asus one, Asus, however you say it. But of course, I found this whole concept of Steam machines absolutely fascinating. And of course, people are installing SteamOS and the various spin-offs and SteamOS-based operating systems, like the one I've been playing with, Bazite, on their PCs, and enjoying a great deal of success with this. But what Matt has done with this is actually go all the way back to that original concept of the Steam machine as initially announced by Valve. And the cool part about this is that someone, and I forget their name, I apologise, but in this video he features someone's 3D printing project, so you can actually go and you can get the files for this. Oh, there it is, Stand Up Gamer, that's popped up literally perfectly in the nick of time. But yeah, so Stand Up Gamer actually created this 3D printable version of the original Steam machine concept, so you can actually go and download these files yourself. And you can 3D print your own Steam machine as it was envisaged by Valve at the time. You can stuff your own hardware in there, as Matt has done in this video, and you can make your own Steam machine. And how cool is that? Now, unfortunately, I never got into 3D printing. I have an awful lot of hobbies, and I have very actively avoided 3D printing, I will say, because I have friends who have fallen victim to this particular hobby. It has, their houses are now completely full to the rafters with various 3D printed useless knickknacks. And I know full well that if I went down that route, I would very much turn into one of those people. So I have very much tried to avoid it. But if I did have one, I'd probably print this. If only if only I was sponsored by a company that offered 3D printing services. Anyway, I don't need to do this video because Tech by Matt has already done it, and it's my second video of the week this week. So yeah, go check out Micromen, and when you finish watching that, you can go and watch Tech by Matt build his own Steam machine. If nothing else, kind of a nostalgic look at quite an interesting period in history by Valve, and kind of them starting to signal their intention to compete with Microsoft and compete with Windows and try to become the dominant gaming platform, which obviously we've seen eventually come to fruition in the form of the Steam Deck. And because it is all open source and, we have all these kind of derivative projects from that, I think a very cool thing. So, yeah, great video. Great video this week, if I do say so myself. And speaking of great videos, it's time to talk about my latest release, which went out just this morning over on my main channel, Control-Alt-Reese. This is a video all about this machine just here, Baby Boris. And this was the actual server that I used in my office. I actually bought this brand new for my web development business many, many years ago, 2017. It was probably 2018 I bought this, but I can't remember specifics, and it has sat in the corner of that office diligently doing serverly duties like acting as a file server, as a MySQL database server for various development projects, as a staging server for stuff. And yeah, unfortunately that company, as of the end of last year, is no more. I have moved on to other things. And Boris the server was still sat in the corner of the office, still powered on, still humming away, and I actually went and rescued him last week, because he's going to be repurposed as a NAS for my wife. In fact, it's going to be loaded up with all of her legitimately acquired TV shows and movies and that kind of stuff. Hence, I am in the process of setting up a true NAS on this now that I've finished with this particular project, which I cover in this most recent video. So this is gaming on a 2017 HP Enterprise micro server, and it's another Bazzite video, all right? I'm obsessed with Bazzite. I'm installing it on everything. I installed it on this. I've installed it on that. I'm probably going to install it on the toaster by the end of the week. But, it's just kind of a look at... Of course, when these servers are designed, the graphics capabilities, this has integrated graphics, and the only real intention is to allow people to spin up a desktop or a terminal or whatever to actually manage the server itself. Of course, a lot of stuff's done remotely over web interfaces and stuff, and we were certainly no exception to that. But I was very surprised at just how capable the integrated graphics in this machine are. It's got an AMD Opteron APU in it. It has AMD Radeon integrated graphics, and I ran some games on it and was, like I say, very pleasantly surprised. Then I slapped a low-profile PCI Express GPU in it and ran the same games again, and obviously saw quite a big performance and kind of graphical quality increase, and came to the conclusion that actually, it was a surprisingly capable gaming machine, which is unfortunate for old baby Boris here, because he's going straight back to file-serving duties after those couple of days of excitement. But hey, at least I gave him those couple of days of excitement in his retirement, and documented the whole process in this video, this half an hour long video, gaming on a 2017 HP Enterprise micro server. So please do go and check that out. That will be linked down in the description in the usual places, as always. And just looking at the stats for this, as I always do, it's a bit of a slow burner. It's off to a bit of a slow start, this one. What are we on here? It was about 3 hours ago, something like that. Yeah, 3 hours, 857 views. It's 243 less than usual, so we'd expect it to be on about 1,000 by this point. But yeah, I enjoyed putting this video together, and of course a slow start doesn't mean that it's not going to be a successful video longer term. If nothing else, I had a lot of fun doing this project, and I actually learnt some interesting things. The main thing being that you can pretty much install Bazzite on anything and play games on it, which is cool. So there you go. That's my latest video for this week, gaming on a 2017 HP Enterprise micro server. So thank you for joining me for this week's Ramble. Now, as you have made it all the way to the end, I just want to mention that this one may have come across as a bit rushed, a bit less polished than usual, and I am in a huge rush. I need to get off and take some friends to the airport. They are going on holiday. Sadly, they didn't invite me, which was very rude of them, but it might have been a bit weird anyway. So I need to rush off and do that now, so hopefully the stuff that I've recorded for this ramble is sufficient. The fact that you are watching this or listening to this is probably proof that I deemed that it was sufficient. Of course, this goes out on YouTube on my second channel, Reese, and also on the various podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, and a load of other ones that I don't even know about. They pick up the RSS feed somehow. So thank you ever so much for joining me. As mentioned, I am away on holiday next week. Now, I should technically be back in time to record a ramble, technically, but of course it depends what happens. So there might not be one next week. Please don't hold it against me if there isn't. We'll see what happens when it comes to it. But if there is, it will go out at the usual time, 2 minutes to midnight on Friday night. That's all I've got for you for this week's Ramble, so thank you ever so much for joining me. I am off to go and enjoy my weekend down in London at Hyde Park, watching ELO, and then onwards to my holiday. So that's all I got for you. Thanks again, and goodbye.